So I was originally going to do this the same way that I did Planet Lust. However, due to the nature of how much of this game is unsuitable for YouTube, I literally cannot. This game is, and we'll get more into it later, is kinda like Darkest Dungeon meets F.A.T.A.L, like the game. And as a result of that, I can't really show 90% of this because aside from the battle gameplay that you're seeing on screen right now, even the menus, a lot of cases, are not able to be on YouTube without being censored. That being said, I suppose that I'll go through and give my actual takes on the game. We'll start with the good, because it's probably the easiest. The world setup is fine. I'm kind of interested in it in a different setting, probably. Rather than it being a game, if it was like a book or something, I'd probably read something of it. And some of the jokes are kind of funny. I don't have this outright in the good because it's passable, but the gameplay is fine as far as setup goes if you ignore a lot of the parts that bring it down. Let's go with the bad, which is probably the biggest part of this whole thing. The HP ramp up of mandatory encounters is absolutely awful. The third encounter is already next to impossible to beat without cheating. I got the strongest characters, I got what weapons I could as of a standard gameplay run, and it went terribly every time. I did this 4 different times, and this has kind of been fixed, but if you fail, you can't load a save. Not that it matters because you're stuck doing an encounter in the instance that you have a forced encounter. I did manage to get past the third mandatory encounter by cheating in money off stream, but the fact that I have to cheat in order to get equipment in order to actually successfully beat even just your third boss is bad design. In that same vein, the game is still very, very buggy. The reason that my cheated encounter failed is because on the 5th boss, which is still only the 5th boss out of probably a lot more when the game fully comes out, I beat the boss, and then the boss encounter wasn't fully beaten. I went to heal my companions, and then I went to try and rest, and it said, sorry, the area is still in danger. And I went in to figure out what it was, and it was the exact same encounter. I don't know what caused this bug, but I got a false success against the 5th boss, and then failed again because it didn't actually mark as a success. So, I don't know on that. I hope that's fixed by the end. Moving on to more of the stuff surrounding it. A lot of the jokes, and I mean a lot of the jokes. When I said some, I mean there's like 3 jokes that were kind of funny through the thing. A lot of the jokes fall flat, and that's because, like I said, this is kind of a video game F.A.T.A.L meets Darkest Dungeon. Half of the jokes or more were just jokes on dark elf and dark orc being black stereotypes. The implementation of mechanics, in a lot of cases, is bad. The game doesn't really describe or give you a tutorial for 90% of the mechanics. The game's tutorial that it does give you is unskippable at the beginning, which I think is still a bad mechanic because every time you fail, and you will fail, you have to restart the entire game. Which means that you will see that tutorial a lot. And when the tutorial doesn't even cover everything that it needs to, that's just bad. A lot of the other implementations are bad for, again, like F.A.T.A.L was, and I'm going to make this comparison a lot. A lot of it just seems obtuse for the sake of being obtuse because someone thought that more opaque descriptions would make for more engaging content, and it doesn't. You lose health for every action you do, aside from resting and any of the healing mechanics, because you have to have a healing mechanic somehow. Every step you take loses your character's health. Every action you do uses your character's health. It's just, you lose health everywhere, and you have around 30 to 50 health depending on most average characters. The werewolves are the only ones that have more, and even they're only at 50 for the first few levels. And the advertised mitigation of luck, or being able to affect luck, doesn't exist in this current version of the game. I have no idea if it will by the time that the game is actually live, because they're doing updates despite the game not being live, so I guess they're taking input from playtesters like me. There is none. There are 2 upgrades in the entire game so far that kind of affect luck. That's about it, and neither of them seemed to really affect my luck at all. I still failed 30 or so times in a row on certain things. And the classes that seem to mitigate luck are worthless. You have things like merchants and whatnot that are going to lower your chance of failing at, well, merchant stuff and but it doesn't matter because the only way to upgrade people is to take them into combat. And if you take them into combat, you're not taking all of your combat-focused individuals into combat, which means that they're not ready, and you already have enough difficulty with the mandatory encounters that it is badly implemented across the board. I don't know what the logic is. The only way that I found, like I said earlier, is if you cheat in money, you can buy better gear early on, and it helps a little. And I mean a little. It barely made me squeak by the 3rd encounter, and luckily after the 3rd encounter, there's a little bit of breathing room for you to, if you bum rush and level up werewolves enough, you can get the next encounters fine. The ugly. Partial AI is on a technicality, sure. It's partial because there are a couple stock items or handmade items, but it's 90% AI, and there is a lot of inconsistency even in the main character. Part of the reason that I can't show most of the actual gameplay is because the game, and it's the prompter. The AI did not know if the character was supposed to be clothed or not, is my best guess on this, because her outfit varies from perfectly opaque, it's obviously scantily clad, but it's a lewd game. That's par for the course. To, I can't believe that this is considered cloth, and everything in between. There is no consistency, and there were certain instances where if the dialogue itself didn't tell me, hey, the character is now stripping down, I wouldn't have even known that she was wearing clothes beforehand, because the AI just was so inconsistent in that. And I'm not really an advocate for AI. I'm not a huge fan of AI in general, but this is probably one of the worst implemented ones and most obvious ones that I have seen in a long time. And I guess that most of that's just due to lewd games being very obvious with it, because a lot of AI models, due to how laws are currently, decide that they're not going to by default allow it. So it's a lot of older models and a lot of the same things. It doesn't look good in my opinion. There's a lot of work that it has to do. And I didn't even expect to talk about this for 10 minutes long. But the fact of the matter is that, and you'll see this when I do my video on Heavy Hearts here soon, unlike those where they're going to be an hour plus long each because there's story and whatnot that I can put into it. This doesn't. The story is at the beginning, and that's it. And most of the rest is episodic, for lack of a better term. This thing happened here. Final consensus, and I'm going to cut off the final consensus that I actually had in the VOD, because my final consensus is here, and it's changed a little bit since, even in the short time since I recorded the VOD. I can't recommend it, genuinely. Maybe that'll change by the time it's released, but it is Q2, and it's supposed to come out in Q2, so my guess is that it's probably not going to be that much better by the time it does come out. Unless it releases for either free or very, very small. I didn't originally have this harsh of a review of it when I originally did it, but the more that I tested in the background off stream, the more the issues that were there became more obvious, especially the lack of a tutorial and the outright false advertising, because your interactions with your companions don't have any real bearing on it. The primary interaction with your companions is just a extra healing mechanic, which they don't tell you it's a healing mechanic. They only tell you that the prayer is healing. It's bad. I hope it changes, and I hope that a lot of the stuff that's in it currently is placeholder, but I don't see that happening. I suppose that those of you that are actually interested in the game will see when it comes out. As for me, I think I had my fill on it, unless a lot of stuff has changed, and then I'll probably only play it in the background because I don't think it's good for stream. Because it is just kinda Darkest Dungeon, but one of the 3 people that enjoyed the tabletop game F.A.T.A.L decided to make it. And I'm not just talking about the R-word related content in it. I'm talking about everything from the very lowbrow jokes to the very obtuse and very out of left field mechanics that are not explained to you well enough for it to be worth it. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for sitting through this, considering I don't even have my model on screen aside from in the background from the VOD. I don't even know if I had enough content on the VOD to actually get through the 15 minutes that I'm talking. But I'm going to leave you all with that. Thank you all so much for watching. Like if you liked for some reason. Subscribe to join the Eggplant Patch, and I will see you guys in the next one, where I have a game that is a good lewd fantasy game. Love you all. Bye.